Thank you so much for agreeing to talk to us today. Can you get us started by introducing yourself? So, your background, expertise, and experience.
Sure. I'm Kathryn Oliver. I'm now Professor of Evidence and Policy at the London School of Hygiene and Tropical Medicine. I've been working on the relationship between evidence and policy in different ways for about 20 years. I really started focusing on, or being involved rather, with systematic review programs, which were delivering evidence for policy for various different government departments in the UK. But I became more and more interested in what happened on the other side of the desk, if you like. So what happened when the policymakers received evidence. And then since between sort of 2019 and 2023, I was seconded into the Government Office of Science, which is the science advice bit of the UK government. And there I was supporting the science capability work that was ongoing across governments. That was all about trying to increase the number of scientists in government, improve the way that government could respond to scientific information and draw on it. And my role there was to try and improve how government articulated its knowledge needs to external stakeholders through something called the areas of research interest, but also to think broadly about how the science system operated internally and how it interfaced with different stakeholders such as universities, individual academics, funders, national academies, and so on.
In your experience, why is it important that researchers engage with governments, for example?
I think it's a different way of working and it's a different type of work that has its own value. So what we often see is individuals decide that they want to do some policy engagement, but see it very much as a way of benefiting their academic career. And it certainly has benefits for your career, but not in terms of, I'm going to go in, I'm going to spend a bit of time in whatever department, and then I'm going to come out and write a paper about it. It's not that kind of exercise. It's a type of work that has its own value. What I think it needs to be remembered is that what you're unlikely to see is policymakers pivoting to talking about your research and your research interest, or indeed changing policy in response to your ideas. That's not the kind of work that it is. It's really more about trying to understand how your bit of the puzzle might fit in with the large three-dimensional model which they're already engaged in building in policy setting.
Can you think of an example where research has significantly influenced policy decisions?
I mean, there's lots of examples, but as I said, there's very rarely a straightforward linear line between knowledge production and evidence use. What's much more common is that policy change, or indeed policy remaining as it is the result of many internal pressures and conversations between policymakers and politicians at different levels and different agencies and different times. Research is one voice amongst those many different pressures, and a really useful outcome of spending any time in policy settings is that you come to understand a bit more about the legitimacy of that as a policy process and the necessity of maintaining democratic inputs into decision-making processes and avoiding the idea that scientists should be the ones in charge making all the decisions.
What do you think are realistic objectives for researchers who are looking to have some impact in the policy landscape?
I think it's interesting to ask why we feel we need to document our own impact. Often we have to do it for, bureaucratic reasons around promotion or, research evaluation and that sort of thing. But I don't think it's government's job to help us with that. That feels like an us problem rather than a them problem. And we should take responsibility for that as an ask. I think it's unrealistic to expect that you're ever going to get a letter saying, thank you for your research project or your research paper on X. We have changed the policy in response. That's never going to happen. Any change in policy is not going to be influenced by one piece of research, or certainly very rarely. I think probably the best you can hope for is a good long-term professional partnership where you can have candid conversations, and you may in time see the flavour or the framing or the perspectives in that discussion changing towards something that is closer to how you would approach it.